Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on steam trap management. Steam trap testing and steam trap management creates a number of challenges for customers depending on the situation in their facility. For many years ago, I'll never forget, an energy manager, a large petrochem facility, described testing steam traps as a necessary evil that simply has to be done. The description seems a bit extreme. However, it speaks to the numerous challenges many customers face in testing and managing their steam trap population. Our goal today is to share what we've learned and developed over 120 years to assist customers in both testing of steam traps and steam trap management tools designed to easily and accurately test traps with seamless transfer of the steam trap information to a management platform that'll assist you in the management of your trap population to achieve energy efficiency and reduce CO2 emissions. My name's Cam Spence. I'm the Director of Educational Development for Armstrong International. I have the privilege today of introducing today's subject matter experts. First is TJ Secord. He's the Technical Resource Manager for Armstrong Smart Services Group. TJ started his career as a project manager for a major corn processing facility where he gained experience in steam. And in 2007, he joined the Armstrong Smart Services Group, where he focused on steam system management and real-time monitoring of steam traps. Since starting the Smart Services Group, TJ has helped hundreds of customers manage their steam systems, where he oversaw the entry of nearly 2.5 million steam traps into the trap management platform Sage from a legacy platform of SteamStar. In 2012, he worked with the design team to build and launch a new steam trap monitoring line called AIM. TJ also was a product champion for a revolutionary piece of hardware called the Sage UMT. TJ has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Michigan Tech University. Riding shotgun is Matt Zakowski. Matt's a solution specialist with the Armstrong Smart Services Group. Matt has extensive customer service and electronic sales experience, knowing the importance of not just selling a product, but making sure the product is the best solution for the application and customer needs is essential in this smart services role. Matt's extensive training experience in computer electronics is a plus for our team. Matt has a bachelor's degree from Drake University. With that, I'm going to let the team of TJ and Matt take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Cam said, thank you very much for that introduction, Cam. My name's TJ Secord, and I'd personally like to thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Today we're going to talk about steam trap management and what it means to your facility and how we can help with that to facilitate that and make that sometimes daunting task of steam trap management into a more manageable project. So let's first start out with a few housekeeping tips. All right, so we're going to try to keep the webinar length to about an hour. So that will also have some Q&A included in it. All participants' lines are going to be muted. Right now we've got 150 plus participants on the line, so they're just all muted to make things so that you can hear everybody okay. Please submit your questions into the chat as they come up. Matt Zakowski, he's going to be riding shotgun. He's going to be answering those questions in the chat and then pulling some select questions and compiling them, and we'll answer them and talk about them after the presentation in the Q&A section as well. This webinar is going to be recorded, or it is being recorded, and will be emailed to you within the day. So there are no slide decks available, but you will be able to see the actual recording of this at any time. It's also available on the Armstrong International's YouTube channel as well. And then just to make sure that everything keeps streaming smoothly for everybody, we recommend that you close out any background apps that are running on your device so that you can maximize your streaming quality. All right, so let's start out with our agenda. We're going to be talking about what do we mean when we say the term trap active. And then, why is it important to even manage your trap population? What are the benefits of that? And then how am I going to do that? Okay, we know it's important. How are we going to do it? And then what are the challenges or the pain points that we're going to run into when we're going to tackle that? And then finally, how can we, Armstrong International, and our representatives help you get through that process to minimize those pain points? All right, so first, let's answer the question, what is trap management? I mean, some of you are probably, swimming upstream right now. That's a pretty big question, and there's a lot that goes into it. But really, if we just kind of break it down and look at it in one single sentence, it's a holistic approach that ensures that trap failure of a plant is maintained at the lowest levels. That's through surveying and replacing of traps, and then focusing on continuously optimizing the customer steam and condensate systems. So that's how we would define it in a single sentence. And then, our tools and knowledge can help provide a unique offering that helps you out with, achieving that goal. So, okay, we've got it defined in a single sentence. Now let's deep dive into it a little bit more. There's a lot of definitions for how often you should do a survey. So trap management is always going to start with a steam trap survey. And what that is you're going to go around, you're going to gather information about every trap you have on your facility, including its condition, okay? And here we say a yearly survey of all traps and surroundings. If you look at different departments of energy, like the DEQ and the DOE, the Department of Energy, they're going to have different recommendations for different pressures of traps. But as a general rule of thumb, yearly survey is going to be probably best in class to start out with. Then when we do that survey, we're going to identify the performance. We're going to look at the root cause of what that failure was, if the trap has failed. We're going to also look at other things around the trap, like the valve stations and the valves, and is there leaking piping? Is there insulation, etc.? Do we observe water hammer? So we're just kind of making a note of everything that we see in that area, so that if there is a problem, we can come back and address it. Then, of course, we've got all that data, whether you've got 10 traps or 10,000 traps. It could be a bit of a daunting task collecting that data, but you've got that data now. How am I going to share it with the people that need to go out and fix the traps, or the people that I need to get the funding to do the repairs from, etc. So we need to report our findings. We need to make recommendations for the trap replacements. Again, that goes back to the root cause analysis. Is my trap failing early because I have the wrong application in that service? And that's where we can help you a lot with that. You can talk with your local representative, and they can help identify if maybe that trap is misapplied, and you can get a longer service life out of a different technology. And then recommendations for the system. So then you can report to your management how you plan to prepare it or repair it. And then finally, how are we going to make that repair? Can we do it while it's online? Is there enough valves in the system that I can just shut it off and replace the trap? Or do I have to wait for a shutdown? So all of this goes into that trap management and all those steps. Okay, so now the next question is, all right, that sounds like a lot of work, and I totally understand that position. However, the big question is why? Why do we manage our steam systems? And the real reason is there are two ways that a steam trap can fail. Okay, it can fail open or it can fail closed. It's simple as that. So a leaking open steam trap, it can have a lot of effects on your system. Primarily, you're going to have a loss of energy. So you've got steam at a high pressure that's flowing through the trap uncontrolled to a low pressure header or to the atmosphere or the environment or wherever you're discharging your condensate to. That's energy loss. Energy is money, so we want to save as much of that as possible. And you get the side benefit of saving that energy if you repair the problem of reducing environmental emissions to the environment and winning in that way as well. A blow-through trap can cause back pressure, causing other traps to reduce performance or fail as well. You can start having other problems with overpressurization of tanks, water hammer, and other overall longer-term issues. Then you have the other position where they're failed closed. When they're failed closed, they're not going to remove condensate the way they're supposed to. So now you're backing up condensate into the equipment and into the distribution headers where you've got a danger of water hammer. You're going to have bad steam quality now because you've got actual water particulate flowing through your pipe. And so that's going to erode pipes and damage things like PRVs and heat exchangers and whatnot. So overall, when I've talked to customers that have a good steam trap management in place, they say that they see a reduction in those emergency calls because we eliminate these types of issues. So again, why trap management? So this is a kind of a question to you. So how many of you did not do a trap survey for the last 3 years? Okay, you're not alone. It's okay, but certainly you'll see why it's important that we do them more often than that here as we proceed with this presentation. How many are performing steam trap surveys on a regular basis, but maybe aren't getting all those traps repaired or replaced, you know, before the next survey, really? I can't tell you how many times I've talked with customers that, oh yeah, we did a survey last year, but we didn't replace any of those traps. And, you know, that's like knowing you have a flat tire, but continuing to drive on it. It's going to just continue to cause problems. And you know, how about how many of you are doing trap surveys? What are your competitors doing? You know, how are they doing them? So, all right, so that all sounds fine and dandy, but let's kind of think about the service life of a steam trap. Would everybody agree that the average service life that we could ask out of a steam trap is probably going to be 10 to 20 years? That seems like a fair number. Well, let's say we want to extend that out and say 20 years. A trap should last for 20 years. Well, that means that if you have an equal distribution of age in your facility, 5% of those traps are going to fail every year. And if we don't do an annual survey to find those 5 traps, then they're going to just accumulate. And if we drop it down to a 10-year lifespan, that means 10% are going to fail every year. So certainly that failure rate is real. You know, you think 5%, it's not that much, but it certainly adds up. And then, you know, the payback on failed steam traps they're very low-hanging fruit, okay? They're almost always within a year and certainly within 6 months. So they do pay for themselves very quickly, even when you have low energy costs. And then again, for those of you that haven't been doing steam trap surveys, congratulations. Thank you for joining with us. You've taken the first step, okay? Not everybody does surveys every year, but those that will or that do are really in the new industrial environment. They're going to survive. They're the ones that are taking the right steps to make change. Okay, so here's a little bit more to make you feel a little better if based on your trap population. Armstrong has a program called Sage, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about later. But we've got about 2,500 sites in Sage today. It's actually a little more than that. And of those 2,500 sites, we've got 850,000 traps that we can pull data on. And of all of those sites, 63% are above a 10% failure mark. So, you're not alone if you're in that same boat. We want to help you improve upon that. So certainly, contact us, let us know, and we'll do what we can to help. Okay, so what are some of the methods of trap activity? So how do I perform that survey? Well, there's a lot of different ways that can be done. The first is going to be a manual method, okay? By manual, I mean you're going out in the field, you're checking the temperature, you're going to listen to that trap acoustically, and then we have what we call a semi-automatic method. That's going to be where you use a device like the Sage UMT to go out and test the traps where it determines the trap operation. And then finally, you have real-time monitoring where you're going to actually clamp a device to your steam trap or your piping, and it's going to tell you what your trap condition is in real time. So you've got kind of 3 levels there. So let's start out with the first level and go into the manual testing and some of the pros and cons. So the manual testing, like I said, the surveyor is going to go out there and they're going to visit each trap. They're going to do documentation on all the piping and the trap model manufacturer. They're going to listen to each individual trap to see what the condition is of it. And it's really a fairly inexpensive way to do small surveys. It is so slow and time consuming, and but you get good data. One of the challenges is that it does require an experienced technician. They have to know what they're looking for, right? You need to know what a good trap sounds like versus a bad trap. Typically with those surveys, you've got paper and pen where you're going to record the information on your paper, and then you're going to take it back and maybe put it into an Excel sheet or something along those lines. And then another con, even though it's a pro, is the surveyor still visits each trap. Okay, by that I mean that they get paid for their time, so it costs money. There's a potential safety risk associated with that because they're going out in the field near steam traps, or just going out in the field at all. And then finally, it's a point-in-time event. So we just see that single point, and we don't know what's going to happen next week, next month, or what happened, the week before or the month before. So we just know what it's doing at that time when the surveyor's at that trap. So when you're doing a manual survey like that, what are some of the challenges or pain points that we're going to run into, okay? And the first one is a lot of the solutions are wired. And I don't know how many of you guys have been out in the field around steam traps doing steam trap surveys, but I can tell you that if you are using like an electronic stethoscope or something like that, the cord is never long enough. You're always trying to hold it too far away, or you bump it against a hot steam pipe and it melts it, or it's always getting tangled. And anybody that's dealt with anything that's wired certainly has lived through those challenges. Then when we've got a person out there doing the survey, they're listening to the trap, I've seen it many times where you go, is that trap failed or is it okay? And then somebody else comes up, oh, that one's definitely failed. And then another person listens to it and that one's okay. And so you've got a bit of a subjective test there, right? It's dependent on the skill of the technician. So that certainly is a challenge as well. Typically, when you do a survey, you're going to tag the steam traps. So you're going to go out and you're going to say, this one's tag number 1 and tag number 2. Well, over time, steam traps are typically not located in the nicest of areas in the world. Over time, they're going to get dirty and hard to read. And so that's another challenge is being able to read that tag. if it's up in the ceiling or something, or you just can't read it because it's covered in gunk, like in this picture. And then finally, what condition do you call it? You can say that it's cold or plugged, okay, or blow through. It's really difficult to tell anything beyond that from an average survey technician. And then, you know, the equipment, it's fairly old, outdated. A lot of the stuff that you see was used in the 80s and 90s, hasn't changed. How do we take advantage of today's technology to manage our steam trap population? And then finally, it's ground level only. Well, again, we go to that cord length, right? So now my survey technician has to get a lift or a ladder if the traps are out of reach, or climb through a bunch of stuff to get to something. Or if it's in a vault, you have to climb down into that vault and expose your technician to the dangers that are associated with that environment, either being up high or in a vault or something like that. So those are many of the challenges that you face today when performing a steam trap survey. So now I want to get to the part of the presentation where we want to talk about how we can help you, right? So how can our technology solutions help you tackle some of those pain points? And we'll go through each one of them here in a moment. But first I want to introduce the UMT. So Sage UMT, it is really a tool that's revolutionizing the steam trap surveying world, okay? It is faster than a manual survey. You know, I've had customers tell me that it's more than half the time to perform my survey, or twice as fast. It allows for quick data entry and reporting. The surveyor does still need to visit each trap, so that's a pro, because we can document information about piping and you know, elbow leaks in the area or valve issues, right? It requires some training, but not a lot. It's very, very simple to use, and it's really the least expensive way to survey, especially large populations, because you just it really allows you to survey those quickly and makes life a lot easier. The cons are that it is still time consuming. I have to send somebody in the field. Even though it's still half the time, it's still time. And the surveyor has to visit each trap. Like we said, there's an advantage to that in that they're reporting on the piping and insulation and all that other information, but they're still out there in the field, so they're still exposed to some of the dangers in that area. So just a little bit of information about that. So how do we address some of those pain points? Well, the UMT, if you remember, we talked about a wired solution before. The UMT is wireless, okay? So it uses Bluetooth technology, just like anything nowadays. So it communicates to a tablet or a phone all by itself, and no more wires to get tangled. The objective testing goes away because the device has a built-in algorithm, so it's going to listen to the trap the same way every time. It's not going to be subjective in its testing. It's a mechanical device. It's a computer device that looks at the same information the same way. The other challenge was unreadable tags. Well, the UMT uses RFID tags. And so these RFID tags, they've got an RFID chip in them, just like you know, the hotel key cards where you walk up and you just tap the door and it magically unlocks. It's similar to that technology. So what you do is you walk up to the tag and you scan it on the side, on the left-hand side of the device there. It's going to read the tag, and then it tells the program what trap it is, and it brings up information about that trap very, very quickly. Finally, with the UMT, because we are using computer algorithms and sophisticated sensor technology, we can report leak levels, as well as full blow through, as well as a cold plug trap. So you've got many different conditions that can report in so that you can get more accurate survey results. The software is always getting updated. In fact, I just got out of another meeting just a few minutes ago where we were discussing improvements to the app and things like that. So we are continuously updating and improving things to make it so that the tool is even more accurate and more easy to use as time goes on. And then finally, in the end of the UMT, it has a standard thread. It's just like a painter's pole or a broomstick thread. So you can reach up into areas that you would normally need a ladder or a lift. So for example, in this picture, we found it's a pretty old, nasty broomstick you can see that was laying against a beam nearby, and we threaded it into the end, and we were able to reach up and test that trap without having to go get a lift. So again, it's just a standard pole, so you don't need any special equipment to do that. You can use equipment that you may already have. All right, so here's some information about the actual UMT. So first off, at the tip, it has a state-of-the-art acoustic sensor. So quite honestly, we could talk for an hour about the sensor alone, but it is specifically designed for steam traps. Armstrong International designed this sensor, and it is specifically tuned for the information that the sounds that flow from steam traps. It is a rechargeable device. It has a 10+ hour battery in it, so it's going to make sure that you don't get interrupted midway through the day because the battery dies. It's it does exceed the 10-hour rating pretty good, and I'm confident that it'll last longer than you do. So the display is simple and intuitive. It's just got a few lights, and it's got 2 buttons on it. A lot of stuff is done in the app itself. We check the temperature, going to the other side of the slide. We check the temperature using an infrared sensor technology, so you can check that temperature without the risk of wearing out like a thermocouple or something like that. So it's quick and easy to do that check. Again, like I said before, it uses Bluetooth low energy communication that allows you to go, it's well over 30 feet in distance away from your device. So you can put it on the end of an extension pole very easily without losing connection. That RFID reader for reading those tags. And then the test is as simple as just pressing that button there in the middle with a little triangle on it. It'll test the trap. It usually will do 4 to 20 seconds is how long your trap is going to take to test. The grip, it's like a rubberized grip so that it's easy to hang on to. And then again, the connection for an extension pole so that you can use it to reach into the ceiling or down into a vault or something like that for testing without having to get in physically a human into those areas. Okay, so next up, we'll talk to you a little bit about the Sage mobile app. So that's everything on the UMT. Sorry, I had to take a little drink. Let's talk about the Sage mobile app a little bit and how that works. So the mobile tool, it runs on Android or iOS platforms. It's available in the app stores of each one of those. And it's designed to reduce manual survey time. Okay, so we're addressing that pain point of having to write everything out on pieces of paper. Okay, it eliminates that dual entry. So like I said before, a lot of times people go out and they enter all that information on a piece of paper, and then they have to go back and write it into a computer program, be it Excel or anything like that. Well, every time you touch data, there's a chance for it to be corrupted. So we want to eliminate that. And also, by entering that data when I'm in the field, I don't forget to record data about a certain item. The app will remind you, or you'll see it on the app, and you can, oh yeah, I forgot to enter data about this valve or something like that. And once you have all of the data in the app, it saves it. So now I don't have to record it again or print out 100 pages of sheets and check the data. I just go out, I've got my device, I pull up the trap tag by scanning the RFID tag, and I see the information. Now, it is important to note that RFID tags are not required. Okay, they're not required. I'll say that 1,000 times. They're not required. But they do make the survey process happen a little quicker. So if you don't have the RFID tags, you just search for the tag in the app and find it that way instead of just simply scanning the tag. The program is going to record the history of the life of that trap, so detailed asset tracking. So last year I checked it and it was okay. 6 months ago I checked it and it was okay. Today I checked it and it's blowing through. Okay, I know that it failed sometime since my last survey. You can take pictures and notes, put notes in there in the app. The app allows up to 5 pictures for each individual trap now. That's a new feature that we just recently added. So like I said, we're adding features all the time. So now instead of 1 picture, you're allowed 5 pictures for each trap. So you can take it from some different angles. And I'll tell you the feedback that I've gotten from customers that are using it is that picture, it really helps them find the trap faster. You know, if you've got 10 traps, you can remember where they're at. If you have 10,000, you can look at that picture and see, oh, well, this piece of equipment's in the background. It must be over here in this area if I don't have a very good physical description. So that kind of stuff helps. It's going to talk to the cloud. So it uses the device's Wi-Fi or cellular connection to upload all that information to the cloud where your data's stored and backed up and, redundantly saved so that there's no chances of losing that information. And then, again, like I said, it improves your accuracy because you're touching that data less. So here's some screenshots that I actually took from a fake site that we have that we use for doing demonstrations. But you can see that all the data is organized in what we call a location nest group structure. So there's a lot of ways that you organize the data. So once I select the group that I want to look at, it's going to show me a screen like what's on the right. Okay, that screen, I've got a nice list of all my traps, a picture of the trap that I took. Some of these, like I said, this is a sample site, so they don't have real pictures of traps in the field, but some of them are. So I can see a quick view of what that trap looks like in the field, as well as the physical location of that trap, southeast of Asphalt Flash Tower. Okay. And then when I go to the next screen, if I click on that trap, it's going to show me a bigger picture of the trap. And this is where I could see those other pictures as well. So let's say I did take 5 pictures. I could look at those pictures. And then once I'm on the screen, I'm ready to test. If I have the UMT, I would just simply test it. If I was scanning the RFID tag, it would pull up this screen, and then it would be ready to test the trap. If I want to check into the more detailed information about the trap, I would look at this next screen, the one that's in the middle, and that is going to show me information about the trap, like, the manufacturer, the model, the connection size, the application, the pressure in, the pressure out, all that stuff that's very critical to performing an accurate steam trap survey. And then finally, Sage can be used without the UMT. You don't need the UMT to use Sage. If I wanted to use it just to do a manual survey where I listen to it or record my data the old-fashioned way, I could simply select the update condition manually button, and it's going to show me the screen like on the right where I can just select the condition the trap should be. So Sage is pretty flexible in that. So I don't need the UMT to use it, but I have to have an experienced field technician to be able to do that because they're going to have to listen to the trap and identify the trap condition. If I have the UMT, I can test without RFID tags. If I want, I can go out there and select the trap and then test it. If I have RFID tags, now I've kind of got the simplest solution where I walk up, I scan the RFID tag, it brings up the trap information, I test the trap, and I move on my merry way. Again, the testing of the trap lasts between 4 and 20 seconds. All right, so I said before that the Sage app reports to the cloud. Well, there's also a web version of Sage that you would run on your computer, okay? And that's what we would call Sage. So the app we would call Sage Mobile, and the website we just call Sage. It's designed to be an easy-to-use interface. You're going to get some trends. You can get real-time alerts if you decide to integrate it with our real-time trap monitoring systems. You've got that viewable trap history. We've got dedicated support. That's Matt's primary role. I also support that, and we've got some other support help as well. The system, like I said, it's grouped in groups and nests, so you can easily run reports. And then finally, the losses that are calculated by Sage are done with a algorithm or an equation that's been approved by the UNFCCC, which stands for United Nations Framework Collection on Climate Change, I think. Google it, it'll tell you. But UNFCCC approved formula. So when we calculate the CO2 emissions that are lost from leaking steam traps, that's the formula that we're using, is a formula that's been approved by that governing body. So when you log into Sage, you're going to see a dashboard, and this is what the dashboard is going to look like. Again, quick, simple, intuitive. You've got the performance there on the left, and that's just the opposite of your failure rate. So everybody's in terms of being positive today. We look at the more positive side of things, and 93% failure rate, or 93% performance would be a 7% failure rate. Okay, so we've got, in this example, we've got what it's going to be 7.77 failure rate on the steam trap. Okay, and then the estimated daily losses, that is based on the steam costs that you enter into the software. We calculate how many pounds per hour you're going to lose, or pounds per day, and then that's the cost. We calculate that out for you. On the bottom, you're going to see the overall steam loss. That's for the next year. If you were to take no action today and let your system run, assuming no traps fail further, you would lose this much steam in the next year. So in this example, the savings potential is $19,450. Okay, so it certainly adds up pretty quickly. On the right, we've got the alert section. So this tells me, 4 months ago, tag 13 was checked in as blow-through. Okay, and if I haven't done anything to that trap since, it's still blowing through. So that's what all that information means. And then on the bottom right there, you've got the phone number to call into support if you have any questions. This is the equipment screen. So this equipment screen is just a list of all the equipment that you've got that's loaded into Sage. So it's very dynamic in that I can sort, I can search, I can filter based on the information in the upper column. So you'll see there I've got tag number. If I was to type in 37, it would only bring up tags that have 37 in them. It could be a 437 or a 037. So it's a kind of a dynamic search that makes it really easy to find what you're looking for very quickly. You can filter by condition. Again, if you want to search for a certain manufacturer or model, or if you want to sort by last reading, you can sort it that way as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can change the way that this table looks, and I'm not going to waste your time going through them until you start playing with it. That's when you really can tell. All right, and finally, I click on a trap. I want to see the details. This looks a little bit familiar, right? This is kind of like what we saw in the app, where I can see the picture on the left. That is the same picture that I would see in the app. And then I've got all my description information there too. My physical location, my model, my connection size, all that good stuff. On the far right there, I've got my condition, where I could change the condition if I wanted to, or I can just see this one's in a good condition state. Finally, with Sage, we have over 80 fields that you can record in Sage. Okay, there's only about a dozen, maybe 14 required fields, but you can fill in information that you may find valuable as you see necessary. So in this example, you can see we filled in some information about the valves that are around that trap. Okay, so I can see valve 1, that's an isolation valve. Valve 2 is an isolation valve. They've got the green box around them. They're in good condition. So I can see that very, very quickly, very easily. If I was to record that when I'm out in the field, it's going to translate through to this page so I can see it. And then finally, I've got some history of that trap. So again, I can see that back in February, I changed the condition from a out of service to a good. You can see here that it's now a good condition. And my previous reading, it showed it as out of service, which was a UMT reading. So I can see who made the change, I can see what the new condition is, and I can see the exact time that it was modified. So that way I've got a better handle on what is going on in my steam trap population. So all this information is great, but how am I going to report on it? Well, Sage has built-in reports, so I can do an executive summary where it's going to give me my monetary loss, my fuel used, my cost to repair those traps, my payback period, and then finally those CO2 emissions if we want to, focus on the environmental concerns as well. It's in a quick, easy to run report. You just simply click Run Report, and it spits out this nice report for you. There's a steam trap survey report. It's very, very similar to the executive summary. The only difference is I can pick like a certain time frame. So if it had a state change from, June 1st to today, I can look at that. So a lot of people, this report doesn't really mean much to them. They just run the executive summary, but for some people it is required. The work order report. So the work order report, if the trap is marked as defective, then it's going to show up on this list. So I've got a summary. That's the page on the left where I can see real quickly what traps I've got failed and some quick information. And then finally on the right, I've got the work order detail, which is going to give me all the stuff that I would find in the app. I've got a picture of the trap. I've got all the information about the trap. So the idea is if the technician that's going to fix the trap doesn't have the app, you could hand them this piece of paper and they would know everything they need to know about that trap to fix it. The trap detail report, this would be very, very similar to this report that we saw before, except for it's every trap. So on the left there, that is a summary of the trap detail report, so you can print off the summary. Or on the right, you can actually select to turn the summary off, and it would be 1 page per trap. Now, I will caution you that both of these reports can become very, very long. So we do limit them to, I believe it's 500 traps. If your selection of data that exceeds 500 traps, then the report will give you an error and you have to reduce your selection. But otherwise you would have a 1,000-page report that can be hard to manage, or you don't want to be accidentally pushing the print button on that. Okay, then finally, we understand that somebody's going to want to be able to report in a way that we don't anticipate, or that we can't make a report that does it. So there's an Excel output report. So you just click the Excel output, and it will output all of that raw data in an Excel form. So now you can create the report that you want. That may be something that's more specific to your facility or your industry or something like that. Or if you just want to have a separate backup of the data, you could output all of that data and save it locally on your machine. All right, so how to get started. First step is talk with a local Armstrong rep. And then we're going to decide how you want to proceed. Do you want just a survey to be done, and then you receive the reports, or you're more of a do-it-yourselfer? You want to get the UMT and you know, perform those surveys on your own. I know another popular method is where a customer actually will request a survey from their rep, and then they'll purchase the UMT, and then they take over the surveys after that, and then rely on the rep for support after that, but not doing the survey. Certainly, there's lots of options there, and we'd love to talk with you about them. And then finally, wanted to talk with you about the certification courses that Armstrong offers. So we do have a multi-level certification. Our reps, they've been through this certification course. Their survey technicians have. So you can be a level 1 through a level 5 survey tech. And our standards are very, very high. So there's very few that, I mean, there's none that are at 5 right now. In fact, there's none that are above 3. So it's a very challenging course. We don't have anything to fluff it or anything like that. We want to make sure that somebody that goes through our training is going to be very competent. It's also available to end users as well. So if you have somebody that you're going to be sending out in the field to perform surveys, please contact us, let us know. We'd be happy to help train them in our facility. We try to go off-site to another facility so they can see different things. We perform surveys and really try to get real-world examples as well as class time information. So finally, the next step is if you don't have Sage and you want to give it a try, you can try it for free. So if you have an Android or an iOS device, you can go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and search for Sage by Armstrong. If you search for just Sage, you're going to be scrolling a long time because there's a lot of softwares out there that are called Sage. But if you go Sage by Armstrong, it'll bring up just our program, and you'll see the owl eye there, and then you just simply download it. And then finally, assuming you don't have an account already, you just click that new user question mark, register here. So you click that, and you will register for an account. It'll allow you to have an account that allows you to enter up to 25 steam traps into that account. Once you log in and register on your mobile device, you'll also be able to use that same username and password on the website. I forgot to put the website in this presentation, but the website would just be sage.armstronginternational.com. So Sage, the word Sage, .armstronginternational, all one word, .com. And then that will bring you to the web page, and you'd be able to use the same user credentials that you did on the app to log in, and you'd be able to see all of the data. There's no restrictions other than the 25 traps of how you use that. If you had a UMT that you wanted to try, you could use the UMT with that trial subscription as well. So finally, our website is armstronginternational.com. So you can learn about all of our products there at armstronginternational.com. If you want to learn more about the UMT or trap management in general, my email address is there below at tccord@armstronginternational.com. Right now, there are 170 participants in this call, so if everybody emails me, I apologize. It's going to take me a little bit to get to them. I will next jump into the questions and answers. So here I'm going to kind of go through the chat window here. Have not done any STEAM surveys since my tenure tender where I'm working. So yes, that's 7 years ? So typically, if you haven't done one in more than 3 or 5 years, you're probably going to see a failure rate in the 30+% range. So certainly, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. I know the facility I used to work in, I worked there for 4 years, and they never did one while I was there. And the facility got started up 2 years before that. So they went 6 years without a survey. They did a survey, and they were actually able to reduce their load almost to the point where they could turn a boiler off. So certainly there's more than just dollars and cents there. You can see physical changes in your system. What does a good trap sound like acoustically? So what does a bad trap sound like acoustically? So when you listen to a trap, a good trap, the best way to say that is a hot, quiet trap is a good trap. Okay, so it's going to be very, very quiet. A blow-through trap is going to have a whistle to it. If you go to our website, we do have some training courses available as well. So there's the Armstrong University that you can take, that you can learn all kinds of stuff beyond just surveying. There's over 100 courses, I believe, on it. But anyway, there's a lot of good knowledge there that we share, and I believe it's all free. So, or you can get started for free. I don't recall. But I would highly recommend starting out there, and there's actually recordings on there of what different traps sound like, so you can actually hear a good trap and a bad trap. And then another question here was, what's a good delta temperature for the inlet and outlet of a steam trap? I'll caution you right now. Temperature is a good aid in testing steam traps. It's not a good primary method of testing steam traps. So if you listen to it and you can't really tell what the trap's doing, you can use temperature to help identify that. But I've seen situations where you think you've got a good delta T across the trap, and the trap's actually blowing through. And I've seen situations where you think you've got a bad delta T across the trap, and you've got a good trap. So certainly, I would caution against using just temperature for your steam trap condition determination. Okay, sorry, I'm just kind of reading through some of these. So conduct on-field training, cost, length of training, event. So we do offer, certainly our reps are trained on doing steam trap surveys, so they would be a good place to start. They can come to your site and talk with you about that and go over the different solutions for that. We've also done some on-site level training programs as well. So if you've got a group of people that it's more cost-effective to bring us in to do a training versus fly everybody up to Three Rivers to do the training, we have done that as well. So there's lots of options, and I would suggest talking to our local rep about that to get to start. Okay, what strategies are used with the RFID tags in hot, humid manholes, like 200+ degrees? So the RFID tag, it is a higher rated tag. 200 degrees is a little bit extreme. I believe we go up to right at like 190, I think, is our top limit for ambient temperatures. So what you could do is if you've got a place where you could put the RFID tag outside of that manhole or something like that, that would be best. You know, if you think that you're going to be a little bit cooler than that, then you could put the tag down in the manhole itself. And then what people have done is with that, that allows them to pop the lid on the manhole, and then they can put the UMT down in there. Even if it is hot down there, it's not going to be down there for very long, right? You can put the UMT down on the pole, test the steam trap, and then you're done. You don't have to climb down on the pole. And for most sites, and this is certainly site specific, so check with your safety department about confined space entry, but for many of the sites I've worked with, seeing how a human part isn't breaking the plane, a lot of times that's allowed without a confined space permit. However, again, check with your local regulations on that. I don't want to get anybody in trouble from following my uneducated advice there. What price is the acoustic sensor? I think that you are referring to the UMT. I will say that it is very competitively priced, and I would suggest that you can contact your local representative, and we'll get you a price on that. There is another subscription requirement for Sage. Like I said, we're continuously improving Sage, so you're always getting new updates. So we always have our programmers employed, and if you don't know, programmers nowadays are in very high demand, and they like to eat well, so they get paid well. So anyway, so that's the advantage of the subscription format, is you do get those continuous improvements where we're always improving that program. Our annual PMs of surveys about the same. I'm not sure. Annual ILO of survey. I'm not sure what that question is. I'm going to move on. I'm sorry. If you've got some more information about that, Robert, please expand on your question, and I'll get to it. Is the UMT rated intrinsically safe for hazardous areas? The answer is no. The UMT is not intrinsically safe. It is sealed, so it's somewhat water resistant. It's IP66, I believe, for water resistance, but it does not have an intrinsic safety certification with it. Okay, how would you be able to tell the difference between a cold and plug trap, or even say that a trap is undersized for drip leg application? This is something that needs to be manually entered. Is this something that needs to be manually entered into the UMT? The answer is yes. So when the UMT checks the temperature of the steam trap, it's going to see that it's below the saturated steam temperature. And so therefore it's going to alert you that this trap is lower temperature than I expect, and then it's up to the technician to go and check and see if a valve is closed or the system's offline or something like that. So it's not smart enough to be able to know if a valve is turned off. So you have to then, so what it'll do is it's going to pop up a notification that it's cold, and you get to select if it's cold, out of service, plugged, or flooded. And again, a flooded trap is going to take some more determination, so you're going to have to look at the piping around it and identify if that trap is flooded or undersized. So that is a manual entry at that point in time. How often is it recommended to do a survey which will result in steam system working without interruption? So So how often do you have to do a steam trap survey? So the kind of the general guideline, the general rule of thumb is going to be every year. Okay, annually every year is what we typically recommend. Again, if you look at governing sites like the Department of Energy and things like that, they have different guidelines for different pressure steam traps. Like super high pressure steam traps, they say every 3 months. You know, medium pressure, they're going to be maybe every 6 months, and then the lower pressure ones are every year. You know, sometimes that's not realistic. So typically a rule of thumb is annually. I know some sites I've seen where they'll actually do their high pressure traps twice a year and their really low pressure traps every other year. That's another good option. And then you work out so that you're doing a full survey every year. That works out well as well. In lieu of. Oh, okay. ILO. All right. So our annual PMs in lieu of about the same. So annual PM. So I would consider the steam trap survey the annual PM on a steam trap. So there's not much to actually, you know, maintain on a steam trap in between replacements. There's no grease zerks or anything like that to grease. So that's what I would say would be your annual PM on that steam trap would be the survey. And then if it's failed, then you could replace it or repair it. So I hope that answers that question. Have you ever heard of Slate Pages? I have not heard of Slate Pages. That sounds like one of those like mobile Excel platforms. And what I will say is that certainly something like that, in lieu of not doing a steam trap survey, it's going to be better than not doing anything at all. But I will say that Sage is specifically designed for steam traps. It's got all of the calculations built into it, so you don't have to design and build all of that stuff out in like an Excel type of program or something like that. Also, with the way Sage saves data, you're always going to be recording that data the same way. So Joe goes out in the field and he's going to record the physical location and call it the physical location. And Jill is going to go out in the field and she's going to record the physical location. And so all that data looks the same. Or if I've got multiple sites where I've got different independent managers, they are going to be able to gather the same data, so it's all on the same platform, so I don't have to, you know, worry about that. Additionally, if Joe is doing a survey and Jill is doing a survey at the same time, it all goes up to the cloud, and I can view that data when they're all done. I don't have to worry about, oh, I got to get the most current updated spreadsheet from Joe, and I got to get the most current updated from Jill, and mix the two and update my system. So it just all, you're always going to see the latest information. When can the next webinar expected, and about what would it be? I think we are taking a break for the next week on webinars, and I don't know the answer to that as far as what the next webinar is going to be. What I would say is that the next webinars will be advertised and emailed to you so that you can be alerted of them. I think that is everything in the questions and answers. I would like to take this time to say thank you guys. I know that your time is valuable. We finished up 3 minutes over, so I apologize for keeping you longer than promised. But again, thank you very much, and have a great weekend.